Mike, this is a first for us. You and I have been doing this segment together for about 2.5 years, and this is the first time that we've done a segment, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, on the field. Not only are we on the field, Mike, we're sitting in the Tin Caps bullpen right now. So my question to you is, if Anthony Contreras gives us one of these, right, if he's pointing out here, wanting one of us to come in, if he's pointing at Maz, what's your out pitch, man? Are you going to be able to deliver the good stuff out there on the hill?
I guarantee you I'll pull a hammy coming in from the bullpen. I'll go on the IL, and you'll have to come in and pitch. But in any event, yeah, this is the first time, and we have to thank head groundskeeper Keith Winter for allowing us to come onto the field. In fact, a bonus, a little tease for next week, our season wrap-up. He's going to allow us to actually do our segment next week on home plate. And it's a kind of a unique feeling being on the actual playing surface. Yes, we're in the bullpen, but we are only 8 feet away from fair territory down the right field line. I know the audience is going to see what's behind us directly, but when we look out and do a panoramic view ourselves, it's just beautiful to see this great facility in a kind of a quiet moment.
So the good news is Keith Winter let us on the field, so that's pretty cool. But the bad news, the last time you and I spoke, the Tin Caps were still mathematically alive for a playoff spot. Shortly after, I think it was actually that Friday night, they were eliminated from the playoffs officially. And first time in, Mike, a long time that this franchise will miss the playoffs in 2 consecutive seasons.
Yeah. You stop and think. This is the 11th year of play here at Parkview Field, and the Tin Caps have made the playoffs now 8 times in 11 years. They came within 2 outs last year of making the playoffs for 9 times in 10 years, but they lost to West Michigan. 2 heartbreaking losses the last 2 games of the season, losing 1 game in the bottom of the 9th. Had a lead going to the bottom of the 10th against the Whitecaps on Labor Day last year, only to see West Michigan scored 2 runs in the bottom of the 10th to win the game and knock out Fort Wayne. So, again, it's a tough year record-wise. But you stop and think, and we'll talk more about this next week in the season wrap-up. Wins and losses are part of the game of baseball, but at this level, it's still developmental league baseball. And there have been a lot of great performances on the field. Yeah, some not-so-good performances in terms when the pitching lets down or the hitters don't drive in runs in key situations. But Tin Caps had 3 players on the All-Star team. And they've had a number of more players promoted lately, either to High A Lake Elsinore or Double A Amarillo. And from that standpoint, I think you can almost credit the year as a success. And even at this level, look at some of the players. I know Blake Hunt's on the injured list. Grant Little's on the injured list. Juan Chemi Fernandez on the injured list. But they all played much better as the season progressed. And it's a shame that they're hurt and probably won't see any more action this year. But from a developmental standpoint, there have been some bright spots this year.
Yeah, and, you know, obviously the playoffs are no longer a possibility, but from the macro perspective, the San Diego Padres, this last week of the season is still very important to them. I mean, they're looking for guys to perform in this last week. I mean, this is not playtime. We're not in the playoffs. We're just going to mentally check out. These games are important to these guys who are obviously trying to make a living for themselves in this game of baseball.
And look at some of the players that have been recently promoted. We talk about Lee Solomon, who won a defensive year he had at first base at High A Lake Elsinore. Joey Cantillo, who was the player of the month in the Midwest League in the month of June, and was leading the league in strikeouts in the top 2 and strikeouts, wins, and ERA when he was promoted. Lake Elsinore has a shot at making the California League playoffs. You're going to Tyler Benson, who was promoted to Double A Amarillo. Carlos Baylin, who started the year here in Fort Wayne, promoted to Double A Amarillo. The Sod Poodles are in the Texas League playoffs. At Triple A, the El Paso Chihuahuas are fighting. They're only 2 games back of a playoff spot with 6 games to go, starting play tonight. And so those are 3 other teams above Fort Wayne in the Padre chain fighting to make postseason play. And they're using some players that started the year here in Fort Wayne to try to get them that added boost. So from the developmental side of things, that is kind of neat to see.
All right, Mike, I think it's time to wrap it up. It looks like AC's calling me out to the mound. I gotta go get loose. So we're gonna have to catch up next week.
Fastball up and in, or breaking ball down and away. Your choice. Don't be wrong.
That's great advice. He's Mike Maz. I'm Peter Hood. We appreciate you joining us on another edition of TinChattin. We'll see you back here next week for the final edition of 2019. Until then, stick around. We got much more coming up in the locker room right after these messages.